So, first speaker on Dickens, so let's have the first speaker now on Orwell. Jean.
What a task. After that, and of course there is no competition. Dickens is absolutely enfolded into Orwell. Orwell absolutely has Dickens running through him, and that's why the essay that we've given you is, in a way, an odd essay. I want to make 4 claims for Dickens. The first one is that, for Orwell, and in a way that they're not that he is a great novelist, but that he is the most tremendous writer. The first claim I want to make is that Orwell sets going, in a way that Dickens never does, a kind of, he is opposed to the assassination of language by lies, and he sets going a set of antibiotics on how we use words, how everybody uses words, that live both in his really greatest, do you call them novels, is 1984 and Animal Farm. Are they fables, are they novels? I don't care. But also this massive set of works of criticism and journalism. And he goes around cleaning up language. And in doing that, he doesn't have to dress up things he says with a bonnet. I mean, he strips and he makes spare and he pares down language. And he says, political language is designed to make lies sound truthful, murder respectable, and to give an appearance of solidity to pure wind. And that stripping down of language, which he does to himself as well, and of course he's got limitations, but, you know, and of course Philip is right, everybody has limitations, but these are extraordinary limitations as well, is based on a kind of bleak observation. You can't stop Orwell observing, just actually, of course, as you couldn't stop Dickens observing. They are, above all, they're extraordinarily sensitive eyes. But what Orwell has, I think, is and of course reinventing language is something that you might say that poetry and great literature always does. It always cleans up and reinvents. But Orwell produces in writing a system which really does clear up how we think, and he does it out of the greatest of difficulty. He has to reinvent his own politics. And that leads to my second point. Of course, everywhere, everybody in the world could read Dickens. Everybody ought to. This is an incredibly humanising, invigorating experience. You come away a different and better person reading Dickens, and all people in all political systems could do that. But Orwell, out of the 2 great world wars, that one of which made him, and the second of which made him as a writer in a way, Orwell produced a genuinely global set of writings. 1984 and Animal Farm are not particular. They are identifications of the horror of power. That perhaps Dickens understands about power, but he doesn't understand about that international kind of world of power. You can take, I do it all the time, you can make Chinese students from China read Dickens now, read Orwell now, and it is as pertinent to them. It speaks exactly into their own contemporary experience. So I think there's the kind of the globalization. It's a horrible word, but the way in which Orwell speaks into people. But it speaks to us. You know, we have to be frightened of the totalitarian things that he identifies in our society. But in a different way, it speaks into China or into anywhere where there is oppression, where there's anywhere there is a writer who is not being able to say things. And in particular into the ways in which bureaucracies use language. I mean, he just gets at the way in which lies pollute things internationally. Thirdly, I think the thing that he has that goes beyond Dickens, that of course is based on Dickens, is what you might call mass hysteria. What Orwell identifies is a continuing state of existence. That's why those great essays and those great novels live in a very peculiar time. They are not about 1984, they're not about 1947, they are in the continuing present. And that continuing present, absolutely rivetingly, in 1984, has no end. There is no end to that novel. There is no resolution. Indeed, politics has arrived at a rather terrifying moment. And he identifies the key 20th and 21st century problem of mass hysteria. we all, I imagine, in this room, remember how people felt when Lady Di died. Mass hysteria can take over your mind as well as somebody else's mind. That is the terrifying thing that Orwell identifies. So I think that goes beyond Dickens. He takes you into another track. The fourth thing is that he's got this aloof, detached, what Ben Pimlock calls, Orwell novels are a state of mind. If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. Put that across. The enemy is the gramophone mind, whether or not one agrees with the record that's being played at the moment. It's that contrariness, that beastly embracing of that which is difficult, which I think we have to... He's a model mind in that way, and I think he sets a standard that we all judge ourselves. And fourthly, of course, he was a model of a kind of woolly, smoky, difficult, uptight Britishness. And the fourth reason why I think you should all vote for Orwell, because he was sexier. I put it to you that if I haven't got the banner behind me, but he is the most compelling example of a certain kind of Britishness, a certain kind of decency. And although Dickens had many relationships with women, actually Orwell's furtiveness, the furtiveness of sexuality, and his sort of almost adolescent sort of playing with it, and just the way he looks. And I completely disagree with Philip about Julia. Winston says to Julia, "You're only a rebel from the waist down." She thought this deliciously brilliant and witty, and she flung her arms around him. It's the subversive power of truth, which is that I think I want to state for Orwell, and plus the best interrogation scene, the scene that pins torture with no bonnets, no long words, no being on one side or the other. It pins in that Winston interrogation torture in a way that could have read in the 16th century and can read now. There's such a spare indictment of what it would be like to be interrogated and how you would behave in it. But I also think he's just better looking.
Thank you, Jean.